Welcome to this video, which deals with the first of the two writing questions, Argue, Persuade, Advise. It aims to define these three writing styles and identify language techniques for each one. We'll examine some example responses and highlight the techniques in action. To give this some context, the issue of the internet will be used as a common theme. This means that any responses will be written as though this was what the exam question asked about. We'll finish with some tips and advice to help you make a good job of answering your own exam question. Let's start with some straightforward definitions. Argue means to present a point of view in a logical and clear way. The second term, persuade, is slightly stronger and means to force someone to think or do what you want them to. Thirdly, advise means to make suggestions about what someone should think or do. You'll notice that all three styles of writing involve you being biased in some way. The examiner is looking for you to put your views across in a clear but convincing way. Each of these three writing styles have their own language features, so let's deal with them in turn by analysing part of an example exam response. Remember that we're imagining that an exam question has asked us to write about the issue of the internet. When you write to argue, you should try to demonstrate these language features. First, give clear opinions, which may be your own or someone else's. You should use connectives to show links between ideas. You should politely counter opposing opinions. And you must also use evidence to back up opinions, because this makes your point of view much more believable and convincing. Here's an example of these features in action. A strong point in favour of the internet is that it's a gigantic educational resource and provides countless ways for different people to improve their knowledge. 93% of students surveyed by the BBC in 2010 said that their grades have been improved by using educational websites. While it's true that not everything on the internet is useful, the wealth of helpful information it contains cannot be ignored. First, a connective has been used at the beginning of the paragraph to introduce the point. These phrases lead the reader through your ideas. Next, evidence is used to back up ideas. You can't be expected to automatically know these statistics and facts and figures, so you should try to make them up while keeping them realistic. You should also attribute the evidence to a source. Here the evidence was taken from a BBC survey conducted in 2010. The next feature used is the expression of clear opinions. It is essential in this question that you communicate your opinions to the examiner. They want to know what you think, and this is the main thing they want to award you marks for. Next, another connective is used to link points within the paragraph. This again helps the reader to follow your line of argument. Finally, there is a polite countering of opposing views. Here the writer acknowledges what opponents to the internet may think, which creates empathy with the reader, but then uses a clear argument to show why these views are wrong. Let's move on to the language features of writing to persuade. This writing style is much stronger than writing to argue, and usually includes biased opinions. Because you're looking to change someone's mind, you need to use different tactics. Being biased in your opinions results in much more persuasive writing. The use of emotive language and rhetorical devices are key for writing to persuade. Emotive language prompts an emotional response in the reader, such as anger, fear, sadness or humour. When we feel emotion, we are more susceptible to persuasion. The rhetorical devices you can use are many and varied, include techniques such as the rule of three, repetition, alliteration, metaphors and rhetorical questions, plus many more. You can also forcefully counter opposing opinions to show why your reader is wrong to think the way they do. As with writing to argue, the use of evidence to back up your opinions will make them seem realistic and therefore more persuasive. Here's an example of someone writing to persuade their reader that the internet is a bad thing. The internet has become nothing more but a glorified gallery of inappropriate images. It is full of porn, filth and smut. How can anyone say that it has improved our lives when children can view anything they want to at any time? They know too much too soon these days. Is it any wonder many adults think children grow up too quickly? 1 in 3 male teenagers admitted to looking at pornography in 2011. Something needs to be done urgently to clean up the mess on the internet before it harms future generations as well. This clearly contains biased opinions. When writing persuasively, you need to use any tactic you can to be convincing, because you're aimed to change someone's mind, and this is hard to do unless you write in a biased way. A number of rhetorical devices have been used. First is alliteration. This adds weight to the negative description of the internet, especially with glorified gallery. Rhetorical questions have been used to get the reader thinking. The rule of three is a psychological technique and involves using 3 words or phrases to describe something. The human brain responds well to descriptions in threes, and it works even more effectively if the 3 words all begin with the same letter and are alliterative. The next rhetorical device used is repetition. This is a favourite of politicians and works by reinforcing an idea. You can repeat words, phrases, and even start consecutive sentences with the same words. A good device to use in persuasive writing is a sense of urgency. This puts your reader under pressure to change their mind now, today, not tomorrow. The next device is about explaining the consequences of the reader's actions. Make them feel that if they don't listen to you, something negative will happen. The use of emotive language appears throughout this answer. These words and phrases cause the reader to react emotionally, leaving them more open to suggestion. Make your reader feel worried, scared, or threatened by the words you use, because then they will be more likely to listen to your opinion. Evidence is used here to back up the writer's opinion. This adds credibility to what you say. Readers will be more persuaded if there is proof that what you say is right. Finally, counter any opposing opinions, because this does not allow the reader to hold any other opinion apart from yours. Writing to advise is a much more restrained form of writing than persuade or argue. Its language features include giving clear guidance to the reader about what to do. For this reason, you should use the second person where appropriate. Addressing your reader directly makes them feel like you are advising them personally. To get them to act, use encouraging and motivational phrases to make your advice seem sensible. You should also give the reader choices about what to do and explain the consequences of each option. Here's an example of writing to advise a parent about internet safety for their children. Internet safety is clearly a huge issue these days. As a parent, it is important that you're in control of what your child is viewing on the internet. There are two main ways you can do this. The first is to set up parental controls on your computer to prevent your child from viewing inappropriate material. The second, and more effective method, is to purchase filtering software which blocks certain sites, such as social networking and games. You can even set time controls so that they can't play games when they should be doing homework. Clear guidance is given here about the issue of internet safety. Choices are given about how to make internet use safer for their children. Structured points are given to guide the reader through the different options. The second person is used to involve the reader in the advice given and make it personal. And the consequences are explained clearly. In this case, the consequences are the benefits of the options available to the reader. Lastly, encouraging and motivational phrases are dropped into the writing to make the advice given seem sensible and easy to follow. So, having looked at the 3 styles of writing, we now need to look at what will be asked in the exam. The question will ask you to write about a particular issue with form, audience and purpose in mind. Form means the type of text you'll write. This might be a letter, article for a newspaper or magazine, a report or a speech, etc. You will need to follow the rules of the form you are asked to write in. For example, you would end a letter in a completely different way to a speech. Audience is the individual or group of people your writing should be aimed at. Depending on audience, your language choices will change. A letter written to an MP will need to be quite formally written, whereas a speech to a class of teenagers might use a more informal approach and contain examples of slang. The purpose refers to the style of writing you need to use, either argue, persuade or advise, or perhaps a mixture, depending on how the question is worded. Here's an example question, again on the issue of the internet. The internet is humanity's greatest invention. Write an article for a magazine in which you persuade people to agree or disagree with this statement. Let's identify the form, audience and purpose. The form is an article for a magazine. To make my writing more realistic, I would choose a name for the magazine too, perhaps Web User, which is likely to contain articles about this subject. For the audience, people means anyone who reads the magazine. In this case, it's people who are interested in computing and the net. My purpose will be to persuade people to agree with the internet. However, I could equally choose to write an article which disagrees with the net because the questions ask me to do one or the other, but not both. To conclude, here are the essential points you need to remember for this question. Read the question thoroughly, then read it again. Identify the topic, form, audience and purpose and make sure you understand completely what it is you are going to write. If you're feeling confident enough, potentially think of a role you could write as. Spend 5 minutes planning your points. Plan to write one major point in each paragraph. Always try to stick to the writing style indicated by the question. Try to start your answer in an interesting way that fits in with the form, and crucially, use paragraphs to structure each of your points. You must use paragraphs, otherwise you risk limiting your mark to a D grade. Use connective to link points together to guide your reader through your writing. Finish with a punchy and memorable conclusion, again bearing in mind the form of what you are writing. Lastly, be aware of time. Spend about 45 minutes on this question, including the 5 minutes of planning time. Thanks for watching this video. There are many more on our YouTube channel covering the GCSE English exam. We wish you the best of luck. Bye for now.